Howdy there, Rabbit Troop sucks. I can't
Don't
go
let's
for,
not,
I can't
let's
go
not do any
for
kind of
that.
country bumpkin stuff.
but we were talking about you, listeners. We were just talking about you, the listeners of this show, and our own sometimes technical holdups and things that we do not fully watch. And we were talking about the listeners, which leads us to this episode that, hi, I am Paul, and next to me is Mike. And spiritually, we have the request of our listener, Andy, who we put out a contest and said, if you have any kind of spooky Halloween films you want us to review, we would do it. And we analyzed Andy's selection, The Sentinel.
We were inundated with suggestions.
And that means, Andy, we're going to send you a Rabbit Troop Sucks shot glass, and you could toast us with all of your listening pleasure. But yeah, thanks for recommending The Sentinel, 1977. I'm loading up a little description here. It's going to take 5 seconds, and it's a young woman moves into an apartment in a building which houses a sinister evil. And it does house a sinister evil. This movie also houses a ton of famous people. I had never heard of this movie until Andy suggested we review this. Mike, have you ever heard of this?
No, never.
I will just open up and glad to say I'm glad we watched it. I actually am going to talk in the majority of this film, just praise. It's interesting.
Actually, before we get into it, I'd like to... So this movie doesn't really fit in the theme with what we normally do because it's pretty good. I actually really enjoyed this movie.
Well, we never want to pick just bad.
No, for sure. But it does fit into the theme of how the hell did we not know this existed?
Yeah, obscure and overlooked films.
But definitely, I mean, obviously, you've been listening to us. If you're listening now, and the spoilers obviously are kind of our brand. But I don't think I've ever said this before. But if you plan on watching this movie, you should stop listening to this right now. Go watch the movie first, and then listen. Because I do think I think a lot of people might legitimately enjoy this movie, and you will get more out of it before you hear us talking about it.
Yeah, the only problem that we're going to recommend in all of this is, going to see the movie, but we had to get a DVD of this, and normally we're like, oh, we streamed on Tubi or, like Plex, or, we do have Shudder and HBO.
Yeah, I don't think you can see this movie without buying it. You can rent it on iTunes or I think Amazon as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of the few movies that we've done that you will actually have to pay money to see. But it's worthwhile. I mean,
I agree.
A rental on iTunes, I think, was $4.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, for the season, for sure, I think this is a good watch.
Yeah, I mean, again, thanks again, Andy. We'll send you a shot glass. This was kind of a win for us. Again, we cover all these movies. We're not always here just clowning on films, but I mean, we just kind of think, so a lot of them would be silly, or a lot of them could have been something or has merit. This movie, just out of the gate, is super bananas in a lot of ways. And as I said, there's so many famous people all throughout. Famous people who honestly just have moments in the film. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Goldblum's in this. Jerry Orbach is in this. Christopher Walken is in this.
Yeah, Christopher Walken's in it. And at one point in time, I wrote, does he have no lines? He eventually does have lines.
Yeah.
But I think you see him in the background the first time, just he doesn't say anything.
Right, that's correct.
Yeah, well, let's just jump into this movie.
Yeah.
So the movie opens up with a ton of goats just running around.
I like the goats. So it opens up in Italy. We're in Italy and there's goats.
I just wrote goats.
Yeah.
I didn't even write Italy. We'll get there, but yeah. So there was a bunch of goats, and yes, so we quickly find out we're in Italy and we're at a church, and they're reciting some kind of old prayer that's going to be brought back up into this movie, and it's a bunch of church-going folks saying things like no evil will enter, no evil will get in, something along those lines, and they keep basically chanting this, and we're like, okay, and then basically boom, cut to New York.
Yeah, they all kind of have this big ring that'll come into play later, and they're all I don't really know Catholicism super well, but
they're big into rings.
Based on the outfits, I'd say they're cardinals, or because the red ones are cardinals, right?
You are not talking to the proper person about this.
That's fair. Two Italian boys don't know anything about Catholicism. But yeah, so they seem like a kind of a higher up group of secret, a group of people who are here for a purpose. They're like a club.
The rings are really selling them too. I thought it was a snake on the ring at first. And
I also thought it was
They
a
said
snake.
it's just Jesus on the cross.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, maybe it was his abs all ripply. I don't know. So but they're doing their prayer thing, and then we cut to New York, and we have kind of like the opening credits. There's like a montage of pleasant New York things. It's like couples doing fun New York stuff.
Yeah,
and a lot of like model photo shoots.
Yeah, so it does make sense that I will spoil this quickly that the lead, Alison, is a model.
Yeah, I mean, that's announced in moments.
Yes, but without knowing that, my notes in this opening are, this is super bizarre. Like, what is happening?
Correct, yeah.
There's all these like weird model shoots. At first, I just thought it was just really bad acting. But then you're like, oh, like these people are just, pretending to actually like pose and do stuff. But it's just very weird. I'm like, is this what they're trying to build New York as? Like, come to New York. There's only model shoots in Central Park. Like, you're going to love it.
Yeah.
But yes, then very quickly it's like, the lead Alison, you are this model. I'm like, okay, that makes, thank God, some sense. Also, side note, I usually say, who the director and stuff is. Sometimes the director is Michael Winner, and he is best noted as the director of Death Wish.
Yeah, 1 through 3 I saw.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Also, this movie, I mean, I've seen the first Death Wish. I don't know that I've seen the second two. This movie had a very, so I guess I'll backtrack a second. I don't typically really enjoy older movies a ton. It's just my preference, I guess. This kind of had a feel though of like an older European movie.
Yes,
which I think
totally agree.
which I think I do like a little bit more. Just the cinematography, just the style and the vibe. It just felt it felt like I was watching a French movie but in English. And I didn't pick up on that watching Death Wish though. so
I mean, maybe we'll have to go back and reanalyze that. I don't know if I've seen like the original Death Wish for at least several decades.
Oh, probably. The one, what was it? Was Bruce Willis in the new one?
I still had fun with it.
Yeah, that was all right. Yeah.
If anyone has a death wish, I mean, and they want to deliver that wish to people, I'm willing to watch that film. So
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, we get our lead Alison. We find out that she is this model, and she's I totally agree with Mike. There is this like European sense of there's just kind of like a tone and a hue to the film stock itself. There's kind of this, I don't know, like there's music that just really is kind of like vibrant and it's like you could go do it, like whoever you are, like it's kind of youthful, and we kind of follow Alison around and it's like her day to day, and it just seems like this young woman who's trying to make it in one of the biggest cities in the world.
It was like the opening to the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Yeah,
like she's gonna make it after all. If she was wearing a hat, she'd have thrown it up in the air. But we also find out she's looking for an apartment.
Yeah, the problem I have with this movie is I do feel a couple things are unfolded throughout, but maybe could have been told us a little more. Like, doesn't always have to be mysterious, like everything to do with the supernatural that we'll talk about and the eerie presence as noted in the description. So Alison is looking for an apartment because she's been with her boyfriend for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so like I'm under the impression like, she needs a break, or like, he should have proposed. I mean, this is 1977. I'm not trying to sound sexist, but maybe this is like the standard this woman had for 1977. Like 2 years, no proposal. She wants to start a family. I mean, do as you wish, everybody. But that was kind of what I was led to believe. But Michael's backstory, her boyfriend, really unfolds in a really bizarre way in this film that it's just weird.
It is weird. So when she's looking for these apartments, she mentions to a friend of hers that she's with that, she have been living with him for 2 years ever since I got out of the hospital. That's a little foreshadowing that we'll find out more about in a second. But we also find out that, she's in a relationship with this dude, Michael, who's a lawyer, and he is also looking for a new apartment because he wants a bigger apartment so that they can expand their family.
I think the idea is I'm going to get a bigger apartment. You're going to live on your own for like a year, but then you're just going to eventually move in with me. And I think like she agrees. Like she's like, I just need space. And, it's very clear that they're still dating, that they don't have plans to stop. She just kind of wants to honestly live on her own.
Right. She just wants to get, she wants to make it after all. And so one thing of note, she's looking at kind of like smaller apartments, but everything that they look at is very nice.
Oh yeah.
$600 a month was the first apartment she looked at. And I guess like $600 a month now isn't anything. Like that's not a real amount of money, but it was played off as being like very expensive.
Yeah, if any of you have read about the housing market in Denver, I mean, $600 would get you someone's bathroom. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I first moved to Denver 20 years ago now, the 1-bedroom apartment that I rented that you've been in many times, that was $600 a month, but 20 years ago.
Didn't the first apartment you have that I saw once, did they like fumigate while you were in it or something?
Yeah, so when I first moved here, I moved here kind of like on a whim, and it was kind of like short notice. So I did sublet a crappy studio. I was there for like 4 months. For those of you in the know, it was on Colfax. It was the building right behind the parking lot for Tom's Diner, which is now closed, and it's some kind of weird club now. But yeah, that place sucked, and they did try to kill me. But yeah, the other place was much better. But I mean,
Mike will share many stories of that apartment. There's many stories that came out of that apartment.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, for the short time I was there, yeah. But the apartment that the lawyer is looking at is $2,000 a month, which is a reasonable apartment now in Denver. But I mean, in 1977, that must have been like $1 bajillion.
Oh yeah, I mean, like his apartment that he gets is like overlooking Central Park.
It's an amazing. Yeah, I'm going to look this up right now.
Yeah, it's bananas. Curious. Yeah, so as Mike is looking this up, there's a point in time where Alison does go and visit her mom, and she's back in her mom's house, and she immediately has this flashback, and it's this flashback where she runs into a room, and there is a orgy led by her father.
Yeah,
with.
I don't think either of the women, or any of the women, because there were more than two, I think, none of those women were her mother.
Yes, that is brought up later. But there's also just like they're nude and eating cakes.
Right, like you don't see anyone fucking, I don't think. They're just like hanging out in the bed eating pastry.
Yeah, like he's not wearing pants, but he has socks on and maybe like suspenders, but then they're eating cake. I mean, the whole thing's bizarre. She freaks out in the flashback. I mean, as anyone would. I'd freak out. Yeah, like, we're all going to freak out.
The father gets up and they have a tussle. He rips her
crucifix off her
necklace off.
And then she's alarmed and immediately tries to run to the bathroom and tries to commit suicide by cutting her wrists.
Yes.
And then that is what we will note as one of 2 suicide attempts that she has in her past. This is a big thing going forward in this movie, which is kind of a necessary theme according to the crux of the film. Like suicide is definitely a focus. Like to tip the scales of good and evil. But yeah, we learned that. I thought that was a little confusing. Mike did as well. We were under the impression that maybe that was her sister.
Yeah,
she says something about her sister at some point in time. It's just really passed off.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of the hazards of taking notes while watching a movie. I think we were both just looking at the paper, at our respective notebooks, writing things down, and the scene just happens kind of quick, so we might have missed something. Quick fact, $2,000 in 1977 is $9,800 in today's money. So that is a very expensive apartment.
So she gets to this apartment eventually. Ava Gardner.
The new apartment that she's looking at.
Yeah. And so Ava Gardner, her real estate agent, is like, yeah, I'm going to show you this place. And she's like, great. And the real estate agent's like, yeah, it's $500. She's like, well, I don't have $500. And she doesn't really bat an eye. She's like, well, I didn't say 500. I said 400. Mm-hmm. She's like, well, I thought you said 500. She's like, when do we sign the contract? Because 400 seems reasonable. This place is huge.
Yeah, it's dope as fuck. It's furnished also.
Yeah, so it's like, I think it's like a huge mansion, and then it's like sectioned out now into apartments out of this. $400. This, I don't know. It's like a 2,000 square foot apartment. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. The first thing I noticed, because I'm a nerd, the entry door into her apartment is like this sweet, humongous pocket door, and I want that. I want that in my life. But yeah, when they're walking up to the building, she's kind of creeped out at first. On the 5th floor, there's an old man looking at her through the window. And Ava Gardner was the real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said, "Oh, that's, he's a priest. He's blind. He just looks out the window. Don't worry about him."
But it was like, what is he looking at? And then there's something music played like, dum, dum, dum.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to jump ahead where we were at. Oh, yeah. So she moves in. It's basically kind of like instantaneous, like she's moving in.
Yeah.
And we get, was it Chazen? Chazen, the neighbor, just pops in, and you will know him as Rocky's boxing coach.
Yes, that's right. I knew I recognized him from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a fucking bird on his shoulder, and he's carrying
Burgess
a cat.
Meredith.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He's got a little bird, and he's a very quirky man, and he's, like, oh, let me go through all your knickknacks. And I thought this was really fun because he's like, oh, I was really a fan of all the presidents, and starts looking through stuff, and like all of his historic knowledge is completely inaccurate, and she's calling him out on each one. He's like, this is this president. She's like, that's the wrong president. And he's like, well, I'm sure that president said something similar to the other president too.
Yeah.
And then just looks through all these knickknacks and kind of wisps his way out and so like, I'll see you later. And then she turns around and there's a picture of him framed in the apartment now, which
was kind of weird. Yeah.
Bold move. That's if you ever want to invite, in your house, have Rabbit Troop Sucks come, we'll do a live podcast and we'll leave you pictures of us around your house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
I'm down.
Yeah. So I'm going to crack a beer real quick. So that's what you're going to hear.
Is it a notable Colorado beer?
It is. It's from River North Brewing.
I like it.
Yeah. I've drank, this is a pretty high test. I've drank it the past couple podcasts we've done because it's like 10%, 11%. So, it's a oneer.
If you want to keep this podcast going, this brewery should send Mike some beers.
It's called Nightmare Fuel. So it's, it's Halloween appropriate.
Yeah. Happy Halloween.
And it's good, but it's woof. So there's that. But so this kind of marks, it's Alison, right? This kind of marks Alison starting to have some health and emotional problems. We see her; she's at a photo shoot with a very young Jeff Goldblum snapping photos, and she just kind of like collapses.
Yeah.
There's a peacock that falls into a pool, and some Afghan hounds run away. But kind of things are starting to go wrong for her. She's not really feeling well.
Yeah, basically, I mean, that's just kind of the skip forward. So she's just kind of living a day-to-day life. As I said before, although it may seem odd to the viewer at first that this, her, the lead, Alison, is with this guy, Michael, that they clearly are trying to work on things and go for a future together, because then the next scene is, I don't know if this is where Alison did collapse with the photographer. I think that's when we just see him at first.
Oh, maybe.
She will collapse many a times, but... Because the next thing I have is they're at Michael's like friend's house and they're showing a slideshow, so everyone's just looking at someone's like trip to Rome or someplace, and she's like, "You have just the worst friends," or something along like that. And they're kind of cuddling up on a couch and like hanging out in the corner while all these other friends are drinking wine and looking at this slideshow. But it seems like everything's going okay. Like she's got this modeling job, she's got this place, she's hanging out with Michael. Things will change.
Their relationship seems, it seems really strong. Like there's a lot of love there. It doesn't seem, it's not played off as a troubled relationship. She wants to live on her own.
Yeah, Michael's actually a really dynamic character all throughout this, because he kind of flips. Like, you always think like, is he on the up and up? And sort of sometimes, and then not really sometimes. But his dedication to get things done throughout this film, like in a positive way, he just does it. He just goes places and just like, he's like, I'm a lawyer, and he sets stories that aren't true to like basically go on an investigation all throughout this film.
There's something from his past that we'll find out about in a little bit that we don't actually ever find out if it's true.
Oh, I think we do.
Do we?
So yeah, I'll bring it up at the end.
Okay, yeah, maybe I missed that, but but he might have had a troubled past. And maybe we find out that he does. But so, they're just kind of living their life. And it's like a day by day. We see Alison comes home one night. She's got some grocery bags, and she wants to go meet some of her other neighbors. So she knocks on a door, and I think she ends up just kind of letting herself get in because the door's open. And that's where she runs into Beverly D'Angelo and that other chick.
Gerda?
Gerda, yeah.
Yeah, they're dressed like circus performers.
Yeah.
Actually, Beverly D'Angelo, I have that she looks like the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, she kind of does.
Like WandaVision.
And the other woman is much older. I mean, obviously in 1977, Beverly D'Angelo is like, she must have been 20. I didn't look it up
I'm
or
sure.
anything. But, and the other woman is like, I mean, we always joke about how shitty people look in old movies, but probably 50, 60 years old, something like that. I mean, they're both being kind of weird. The older woman says, stay for some coffee. And she doesn't really want to, but then she wants to be polite. So she stays for coffee, and the other woman goes into the room to get it. And when she leaves, am I reading the scene right? Beverly D'Angelo just starts masturbating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just like, it's, yes.
Yeah.
It's
So
a very direct thing.
Just like in front of her. And Alison is like, she's sitting there kind of playing it cool, but like really trying not to make eye contact.
Yeah, it is. I was kind of chuckling.
I was too.
Not at the scene, but if you just take Alison's reactions out of context, it's like someone said like a crass joke, or someone made a social faux pas, or maybe someone farted in the room. That's her reaction.
Right,
but
yeah.
like this woman's masturbating in front of her. It's like super like awkward that you probably would immediately get up and leave.
I mean, yeah, most people would have, but she wanted to be polite. So when the old woman comes back in, she kind of picks up conversation, and she says, what do you two do for work? And the old woman says, we fondle each other.
Yeah, and then Alison
and she's like, okay, and now she's got to go. Yeah, the masturbating didn't tip the scale, but the fondling, that was too much.
She meets Chazen again, and he's like, there's two unique people, and they kind of run off, and then we just get a jump scene to a photo shoot. Jerry Orbach is, you probably all know from Law and Order and many other things.
He's also got like basically a Hitler mustache.
Yeah, and he's only in it for like a minute or so. Yeah. And he's a complete jerk. He's a film director, and he keeps basically correcting what Alison is supposed to do. They're shooting a commercial for some bottle of wine, and he keeps saying, when your scene is done, you're supposed to turn it this way. And it's kind of funny because he just rails on her after one take. And then like you can say like, take two. I'm like, take two? Like, geez, dude, it was a one take. And then later you see like, take 14. I'm like, it still probably took like 30 minutes. Like, this doesn't seem long. Like, this is 5 seconds of recording, but then like a side producer or something goes up to Jerry Orbach. He's like, hey, like, we're going to have to like pay overtime because we only have 30 minutes left. They think they get this good cut, but then it's blurry. And then Alison just walks over to like a plane of glass and faints into it. And he's like, that's what I need now. Very, very concerned man.
Yeah, they'll fix it in post or whatever.
Yeah, and they do say that, like, oh, we're gonna get another model. She'll get in her clothes. We'll put her hand in. That's super weird.
But yeah, so this is just like the continuing of Alison's like mental and physical state. And throughout the movie, like she starts off kind of like bright faced and very pretty. I mean, she's pretty anyway, but like throughout the movie, I don't know if they're just putting less makeup on her or putting worse makeup on her, but like she like bags under the eyes. Like she's definitely looking worse for wear throughout this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree that over time there's clearly some mental stress.
Yeah.
And this leads us to the next scene where she's just having a slew of bad nightmares that basically just, shock her awake.
Well, we skipped the party.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Sorry. That is correct, which would have led to the nightmares.
Yeah. So she gets home and was it Chazen?
Yeah, I think it's Chazen.
He knocks on the door.
And she's like, come on, Chazen. I've had so much today.
She's like, I've had a bad, because you had a bad day. Yeah, she's like, I'm not feeling good. He's like, you know what? There's a party. It'll make you feel better. Let's go up to this party. So my impression was that this is a party like for her.
I also thought that.
To meet her neighbors.
I also
that is how okay, good.
I thought all of that all throughout every moment of this until later there's a scene, and we'll just try to piece this together for you right now, is because Mike is correct. They open this door,
right, and she's introduced to people like, hey, this is.
They were like, surprise,
right? Yeah,
to her,
yeah, and like, oh, this is so and so. They live in this apartment. These are these people. They used to live in this apartment. They moved out, but they come back a lot.
Yeah, and so and this is Chazen's apartment.
Yeah, they're in Chazen's apartment,
and we are later told, not in the moment, that this is not a party for Alison.
It is the birthday party for the cat.
For the cat.
Yeah,
that we have not established, but there is a cat.
Yeah, Chazen has a cat,
and happy birthday to Chazen's cat.
Right, and we find out it's his cat's birthday party when the camera cuts to it, and it is wearing a party hat, and they are singing happy birthday to it, which was pretty adorable. But yeah, so she's like, okay, so this is fucking Kat's birthday. And now, now we cut back to her. It's like restless sleep. She's having weird dreams. Like a lot of the people that she met, Beverly D'Angelo and the other woman are there. There's a lot of tits out in this dream.
And I think there's cake again. There's always like pastries and nudity.
There's cake. Again, very European. Cakes and pastries and nudity.
It's a very Jungian philosophy with cakes and nudity.
And she kind of wakes up in a sweat, and she hears someone walking on the floor, like, her ceiling, the floor of the apartment above her. Her chandelier is shaking.
It's not, the chandelier is not just
shaking. It's like swinging. Yeah.
Like someone is just whipping it around with a cord. I've lived in places where the chandeliers are shaking.
I've seen it happen.
Yes, and I don't mean that like this decadent chandelier that she had, but like we had like a small light chandelier. Right. And yeah, Mike had seen this happen numerous times in one of the places my wife and I were living at. And that's one thing. This thing is just whipping around. I would be out for that reason.
Wasn't it that your upstairs neighbor was like jumping rope or some stupid shit?
Yes. Well, yes, that eventually I knocked on this guy's door numerous times. He refused to ever open the door and gruffly said he's taking care of it. My wife went up there and he immediately opened the door. He's like, "Oh, how can I help you?" And she's like, "Shut the F up." And he said, "I'm so sorry. I was exercising. I've been jumping rope. This is 3 a.m. So, hey-o." Yeah, good times.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's just like the dream of Alison.
Right. Yeah, but we will find out later that her upstairs neighbor was not jumping rope. Is doing something else entirely.
So this is like another bold move of Michael, the boyfriend, part 1. He hears this, he learns about this. He's like, I'm gonna call a private detective and we're gonna start investigating this. I don't like this at all. And I was like, whoa, dude, awesome. Yeah. Like, okay.
No, he's ready. He's here for it.
Yeah, there's like scenes. He's calling this private detective. He's like, we need to check this out. Like, this is weird. Like, I don't like, I don't like my dame like hanging out in some haunted house. Like, he didn't say that, but his actions are bold, and he has more bold actions like this throughout.
Yeah,
he's the voice of reason in many times.
So, his process was to call the PI, and Alison just calls up the real estate agent, the Ava
Gardner.
Gardner, yeah. She's like, "Hey, thanks for meeting me." And this woman's really nice. She's like, I can't fucking sleep. Like there's chandeliers and like someone above me is jumping rope.
And wait, and before Mike tells you what happens, I want to note we're about I would say about halfway through this movie at this point in time. And I don't mean that as like a slow burn or anything, because what Mike's going to tell you, there's a huge reveal. It's like, damn, this movie just said a bunch of stuff. And I thought we were going to work our way up to this, and not for this movie. And it's one of the reasons I like it.
Yeah, agreed. And, and that's one of the reasons I mentioned earlier, like I typically don't like older movies, is they just, the kind of, the pacing is very different than what we are used to contemporarily. And sometimes they feel really slow. And, Paul said that like, we're about to kind of now figure out what is actually going on with this movie almost halfway through. But it didn't, like, at no point through the first half of this movie was I like, this is boring.
No,
like,
I
was engaged with the whole thing. So, yeah, this woman's like, hey, look, like, so I mentioned, the priest that lives on the 5th floor, it's just you and him. No one else lives in this apartment. And Alison is not okay with this.
Yeah, she says the landlord's renovating all of these places.
Right.
There's only 2 people living in it. It's you and the priest.
Right.
He's on the 5th floor.
Yeah, he's on the 5th floor. She's on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, she's like, I think it's even like no one's outside of that priest. There is no one who has lived here for at least 3 or 4 years.
Right. So and to prove this, they go to the building, and she starts giving her tours of all these vacant apartments that she thinks she's been in, and like the furniture's different. All the apartments they go in like have things in them, but they're all like covered in cobwebs. Clearly like no one's been there.
Yeah. So Alison says something here that like I almost feel bad that I wrote as a note, because I don't feel it's revealed as much at this point. But she's like, could all of this been just me dreaming?
Right.
I'm like, are you serious? But I mean, I say that now, but later in the movie, it's very clear that Alison has like mental troubles, and I'm not downplaying any of that.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that should have been like noted a little more, or defined a little more.
For sure. And at this point, she's had kind of two I don't know if she fainted or just collapsed from pain. But she's
fainting spells.
Yeah, but she's seen a doctor, so she's like mainlining pills at this point.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You just dreamed you went to a cat's birthday party. I mean,
that's reasonable.
I mean, what are in those pills? And let's talk about sponsorship for Rabbit Troop Sucks. That'd be great. But like you, this wasn't like I just had this dream that there was like a cat. It was you just met like 5 people. You know their names. Like you had full on conversations that you could recall. Like I would not be playing that down. Like I must have been dreaming. But like again, I did not know the magnitude of her condition until later. I just again wish that was popped up a little more.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I dream about cat birthday parties every day.
Damn right.
But it's like in a positive.
It's like a Shonen Knife song.
Yeah, it is like a Shonen Knife song. So now, we see her back at the apartment, which she still is at, which I might have bailed on at that point. But
I mean,
for
you saw the square footage
for $400 a month. I honestly I deal with whatever hauntings were in there. She's putting on some classical music. She's taking her pills with some wine, and she falls asleep on the couch.
Mike, you and I watched Last Night in Soho by Edgar Wright. Mm-hmm. I feel that somewhere this movie had to be somewhat influential to that a little. There's like a little bit of a vibe of this film.
Okay, I could definitely see that. Yeah, I really like that movie.
I also like that movie.
Yeah, so she's she takes her wine and pills. She falls asleep on the couch.
Rabbit Troop Sucks has been brought to you by wine and pills.
That's right.
It's a one cube function now.
I'll make up a new T-shirt for us. We also see that the private investigator that Michael hired shows up. She wakes up on the couch after her wine and pill adventure, and she's hearing more noises, and she kind of freaks out. So she grabs a knife and a flashlight, and she goes on a little explore. And she goes upstairs to the next story, and she sees the cat, the birthday party cat, eating the bird that was riding around on what's his name. Chazen.
That was the bird. I just wrote the cat was eating some random gross. I mean, I think that way makes way more sense.
I thought it was his shoulder bird.
Sure. I just saw some bloody grossness, and I was like, that's a thing.
Yeah. So, and she's like, what the fuck is this? She kind of freaks out. The cat is hissing at her and just takes the bird and runs off. But so she lets herself into the apartment above hers, which I think the door was just unlocked or open or.
Yeah, and there was an illusion at this birthday party where there was a couple that she met, and she's like, "Oh, what apartment do you live in?" And they said, "Oh, I live in we used to live in the one above you, but there's a leak, and so now no one could live there."
I thought they said they lived in the apartment above the one above hers.
Oh, that might make sense. But yeah, it
doesn't matter.
They do note that the one above her has been vacant. Yeah.
So she goes in there, and honestly, so now this movie wasn't really like scary. The moment that happens next scared the fuck out of me. Like this was the moment I went, God.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
So she's like kind of exploring this apartment with a flashlight, and I mean, it's not. Again, like comparing it to like a modern horror movie, which is just like constant gore and jump scares and camera work. Like this is pretty mild, but I wasn't, because at no point up to here in this movie has there been any kind of like frightening, other than like psychologically frightening moment. The kind of like a door sort of closes behind her and reveals like this lanky silhouette of a man who just like walks right by her.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Paul noticed this, but in my mind, I was freaking out when this happened.
Have you seen Hereditary?
I have, yeah.
This reminds me of a scene in Hereditary.
The wall one?
Well, yeah, for like just a nude man walks by. Oh, it was very similar to this, where it's like, whoa, like there's a lot of things to be alarmed by. Like, and I'm serious, like yes, there's some pale, freaky looking dude, but also why is he not wearing clothes? Like immediately, yeah. I think that would scare me times 10. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I totally agree. But he wisps on past and just like goes into a closet.
Yeah,
and she is super, super alarmed.
Yeah, very, very alarmed. And she kind of like pursues him, and then he attacks her. And we
find out it's her father.
It's her father, yeah. But like it looks like a zombified her father. Like he's completely white. Like his face has like a weird, I don't know, rot on it.
He's also wearing like Tarzan like esque underwear.
Yeah,
Just
he's
looks
wearing like a
some,
loincloth.
Yeah, but
kind
made
of.
out of like shrubs and bushes.
Yeah. And so she fucks him up with that knife. Like she's stabbing the hell. She cuts his nose off.
Yeah, good for her in this. Yeah, this woman just is like step. Yeah, right in the eye, right in the head. All right, like the girl came to rumble. Like that's fine. Like another reason I like this film. That yes, it's terrifying, but what are you going to do? You are going to succumb to what's in front of you or fight the F out, and she fights out.
Yeah, and it's like a common conversation that Paul and I have as we watch any movie that has like a villain who gets killed is, you know, like the hero will like subdue them with a club or a knife, and then they'll just run. And it's always like, never stop stabbing that person, never stop hitting that person. And this, she does not. She finishes the job that she started.
Or you have the Hail Mary of all times. In our first Halloween episode of the month, if you listen to Spookies, you jump through a wooden door.
You jump through a wooden door.
If you could do it, you do it.
Yeah. Oh, so I don't know why I just thought of this. This is kind of a tangent. Earlier today, my girlfriend and I watched the new Halloween movie.
Yeah, the part 3, I've not seen it.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I actually really liked part 1. I thought part 2 was very questionable, and part 3.
It's stupid. Yeah. But no, I won't say it. It'll ruin it. It sucks. It sucks though. Yeah. So she fucks this dude up with a knife, and we don't really see anything past that, but we find out she, you know, as a reasonable person would like went to the police with this because she's like, I just stabbed the fuck out of somebody. Like, you got to go find him. Holy hell, what's happening?
Yeah,
and she's also in the hospital.
I mean, this movie is crazy because Mike and I have seen so many just off the rails films that every time someone does something, I'm like, damn it, how more logical can you be? Like, they're like very adult about this. Like, I'm having a psychological breakdown, but I need to talk to professionals. I think this is happening. I talk to the police. Just everyone is just so good, damn it.
Yeah, no, everyone's like, no one is making bad decisions. Everyone is making exactly the decision that a rational person would make.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe why I liked it.
And I'm jarred by it.
Yeah, no, it's very, very jarring. You don't expect it. You expect a lot of nonsense, but no one is doing nonsense. So yeah, she's in the hospital. Michael is there talking to the police and is very concerned. And this is, I don't know who the older cop was, but the younger cop is Christopher Walken, who doesn't say anything.
It's Gatz. That's the other detective's name, and Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
And this is Christopher Walken's in the background doing Christopher Walken things, but at this time there's no lines, and we do not see this Christopher Walken again for another half hour. No,
that's true. But the cops are kind of questioning Michael, and this is where we find out a little bit about Michael's backstory. I can talk about this now, right?
Yeah. I mean, how about this? It's partially said here. This is why I was like, we should just know about this. It's partially noted here, but then later throughout the film, I think Mike should just say the whole thing.
Yeah.
What his backstory is. And I was like, the more I kept finding out about Michael, I was like, damn, dude. Like,
yeah.
What?
So we find out that the
Michael,
the Michael, the other Michael. I'm the original, obviously. Michael was previously married, and his wife died because she fell off of like a bridge or something.
Yeah, but then later someone's like, she was a drunk that would never divorce him. I was like, oh,
right.
Okay.
Well, we also find out that
Michael killed her.
Well, see, that's what I didn't know.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
There's illusions that Michael had foul play in the murder of his wife.
The cops 100% think that he had foul play.
Gatz, the main guy, yes. He's like, I am very, very...
Right, like this is all super suspect. Because we find out that Alison and Michael were... So Michael was having an affair with Alison on his wife. And when he confronted her, she wouldn't give him a divorce. And that was when she mysteriously fell off of whatever she fell off of. So these people 100% think that he killed his ex-wife.
Correct. And now the cops are like, hey, now your current... It was like the mistress is now freaking out and having like mental spells and collapsing in the street. Like,
right. So they think,
Michael, you're in the center of it.
right. Like they think he killed his ex-wife and they think he's trying to kill her.
It's his MO.
It's his MO, right. But again, there's no dirt on this. Like she told the cops that she knifed this guy. They can't find a body. There's no evidence. We just have a woman like freaking out and drugged up, and this guy like concerned about it, but also maybe has been through this a little bit before.
And as we're detectiving our way through this, sad note that, when you listeners listen to this, it'll be, like a week after the fact of our recording. Mm-hmm. But Angela Lansbury died.
Oh, yeah, that's a bummer.
Mike and I were hanging out a couple of weeks ago, and if anyone has Peacock, they have like a whole Halloween section of just shows. And we almost loaded up a Halloween episode of Murder, She Wrote, and I felt that was the bad omen. Yeah. We shouldn't have done it. That sucks.
Maybe we should have actually watched it.
Well, now we have to.
Also, I don't know how many of you guys do Instagram. There's an Instagram account. Jesus Christ, I'm old. There's an Instagram that I follow. It's called Murder, She Look, and it's just a series of screenshots of Angela Lansbury as who is their character in Murder, She Wrote. Jessica Fletcher.
She wrote.
As Jessica Fletcher, like pulling some looks. It's fantastic. You should.
Mike, if I were to go there, would I go to www.instagram?
It's https : You got to do the whole thing.
what was the other search engine?
Which one?
What's the one
like Alta Vista? You gotta,
If ever to go to Alta Vista,
load up, get there. Do it up. Ask Jeeves about it and see if you can find it there.
Can you make a updated GeoCities page where maybe you could post some links?
Well, you load up your Netscape browser first of all.
Fantastic.
You dial into Prodigy, and then
great.
Jesus Christ. So we're both very old. But yeah, so they got, like I said, they got nothing. There's blood all over her, but they think it's hers because it's the blood that is on her is her blood type.
Yes.
And I guess in 1977, I didn't think of this going into it, but like that's all they have. They're not doing like DNA shit.
It's actually funny because then later the detectives bring this up to like the police chief, and he's like, okay, so she has blood on hers that is also hers. Oh no, because they then find a corpse.
Yeah. So the next scene is the cops. Gats and Walken, they find a corpse. I think it's like in a landfill or somewhere.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But the corpse is the PI that Michael hired, and his wounds are exactly what Alison described doing to her father, old man zombie person.
She stabbed him good.
Yeah, cut off his nose. So they're like, okay.
Run his blood,
and it's the two of them have the same blood type,
and that's where the chief's like, "Hey," so Gats is like, "She described the stab wounds pretty much as is," and he's like, "What else do we have?" She's like, "Well, it's the same blood. Well, it's the same blood as hers," and he's like, "That narrowed this down to like 5 million people in New York City,"
right?
And like, well. I mean, she basically just said, like, I'm following the detective. I don't know why he's being dismissed as
right.
is.
Well, yeah, the other guy, the head detective, their boss thinks this is all bullshit. But the PI, and I'm kind of hazy on the details here, but like they know that the PI is connected to Michael in some way.
Correct.
So they confront him about that. And he's like, no, I've never seen this guy before. But they seem to know that PI was involved in something to do with his ex-wife or previous. Can you call it an ex-wife if she died? Like, I don't know. I want to use the right terminology to appear professional.
Well, then we jump to the next day, and it is a church, and Alison is going into this church, and she meets a priest, and he's like, "Oh, come with me, child. Like, tell me your woes." And she highlights that. She's like, I've turned my back on like my faith and God, but I kind of want to find my way back, and I felt troubled. Right. And it's a kind of a very bizarre conversation, which makes sense in a moment when we'll tell you more about it. But the priest isn't really welcoming, which is it's not like evil. It's not angry. He says something along the lines. I'm trying to look through my notes. Is like, basically what you need to do is you need to accept God, and all of this guilt you're feeling and all of this anxiety, it's eventually just going to go away. But doesn't welcome her beyond that. He says, like, and leave now and if you need me later, like come back
Right.
and see me, but like I can't help you.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of weird. You're just like, what the hell? Like that's like really odd advice. Like it's good advice because like you're the priest of this church, and so like there's that end. But I'm like, but you're just like, now get the hell out of here, you little scamp.
Right. Well, and she tells him, like, you know, Paul said that she mentioned that she rejected the Lord and she needs to come back. She mentions here that she has committed adultery, which we know was with, you know, Michael as the second party to that, and that, excuse me, she had 2 suicide attempts.
Yeah,
and we saw one,
Yeah.
which was when she was a child. The second one, I'm kind of inferring here, but I'm guessing the second one, because it's mentioned earlier that she has lived with Michael since she got out of the hospital. I'm wondering if she attempted suicide again after Michael's wife was killed.
Yeah. That was the illusion I got as well.
That's what I took from that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The priest is like, yeah, like, I mean, he was being supportive. Is like, you definitely need to come back to the Lord, but you kind of suck.
It'd be like going to Best Buy and being like, I need to buy a computer, and the salesperson is like, you need to do some research and come back when you're ready. Like,
yeah,
because
exactly.
that's not gonna
you haven't narrowed it down enough. You need. I can't help you with this right now. Yeah, that's exactly true. So she's talking through this with Michael, and he's like, you know what? A client of mine pulled some strings, and I now have keys to every room in this house.
I love this. As I said before, Michael is all business.
Yeah,
like
no,
he is Batman of detectives in this movie. And he's like, client owed me a favor, and pulls
Yeah.
out like this like comically.
Oh yeah, it's like
large,
a janitor skeleton key roll.
Yeah, there's like 45 keys on this like master ring. Like,
Yeah.
it's nuts. I was like, whoa, yeah, gift from grateful clients.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
said. I was
exactly.
Like, what? Like awesome.
Yeah, and yeah, he's TCB. He's taking care of business. So they go to investigate this house, and they start looking through some different apartments. They go into apartments that she had previously been in with the real estate agent, but they're different now. Like, so it was the first time she was in. It was in. We don't know if it was a dream or what, but it was like, you know, the party apartment. Then she went in it with the real estate agent, and there was no one in it, but it was a little bit different. The furniture was different. And now she's in it this third time with Michael, and she says that things are different yet again.
Yeah. Which is fun. There's like all these nuances in this film.
Well, yeah, and some of them aren't even explained, and that's fine for me.
I agree. Like, you don't need this big budget. There's this sense of eeriness, and you know, like even as a viewer, you're like, this is even more bizarre. Like, why would this be like? Okay, so you're at some ghost party. You saw it one way. You saw it like dilapidated another way, but then you're seeing it like in a third way. You're like, what? Like, yeah, like what's going on?
Right. So they're kind of milling around, exploring, and Michael pulls a book off the bookshelf, because there's a bunch of like weird books like how to torture people. And,
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
Good times.
and you know, she looks at this book and she's like, "This book is weird. Like every page has the same thing. I can't read any of it."
This is fun, I thought.
Yeah, and Michael grabs the book and he's like, "What are you talking about? This is like a book in English, and every page is its own unique page." She's like, "No, they're all the same. I can't read it."
And Michael, yet again, comes to this very logical deduction of, okay, I'm just going to insta believe you, which
Right.
I'm down with.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's like, all right, I'm going to point to the words on this book, and I want you to write on this piece of
like
paper.
transpose what you see.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, like this guy's instantly in. And she
Right.
starts writing out Latin. He's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like, you know Latin, but
Right.
this is not what I'm seeing. She's like, well, this is written on every page. And we're not seeing what Alison
Right,
sees.
like we're seeing what Michael sees, which is just a book.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, this movie doesn't need this insane budget. It just, there's like these mental tricks, and they do well to develop exactly each and every one of them, which is awesome.
Yeah, totally. So he kind of folds up the piece of paper that she wrote the Latin on, puts it in his pocket for later. Then they go up to try to get into the priest's apartment, the 5th floor priest's apartment, and the key that he has doesn't work. He says they change the lock. Like, what I have isn't the right key.
Another fun nuance. Like, this guy just has it all figured out. Boom. They shut it down that we saw this other priest, hanging around with his blind priest, and he
Yeah,
must
so,
have
yeah.
changed the locks.
The priest that he hangs out with was the one that she talked to, who was kind of a dick.
He may have been a Monsignor, but I don't know any of these designations.
Yeah.
I do think it was said.
They did say Monsignor at some point.
Someone's a Monsignor.
Is that this is maybe one of the dumber things I've said. Is that like a title, or is that like just a way of saying Mr. in Latin?
Sometimes you just use a comma. You're like, hey, Mon. Comma senior, like as a sign of respect in the priesthood.
Hey, Mon.
You learn a little bit about the priesthood every day on Rabbit Troop 6.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here for. So all movies and Latin Catholicism history. That was not a good sentence. Okay, great. So yeah, he can't get in there. But I want to say like the next day he's like, I'm going to go to the archdiocese. I'm going to have this Latin translated. I'm going to get some fucking answers because he's fucking taking care of business.
Yeah, no. So he's going 2 places. He's going to the archdiocese to talk to the community to be like, I need answers on this priest. And on a side note, he's also going to like the college university or the university like in town where he found a Latin professor to translate. Like Michael is all business.
Yeah, no, I don't know how he has time to do any lawyering.
I wish I could hire Michael as a contractor.
Yeah.
Just be like, I need things done around the house because that guy is going to hire the people and get it done.
Yeah, he's the project manager of this operation for sure. So he the weird old college professor translates it for him. And this now makes sense. I didn't understand what my note was. When do I go old time dancing? The teacher was confused as to what night he went old time dancing.
Yeah, this is like a little almost like it is comic relief that the professor is like some bumbling like savant of knowledge.
Like he keeps calling Michael, like he clearly knows Michael, but he keeps calling him by the wrong name.
And there's like another student in there, and he forgets that student's even there. And she's like, "But my final paper." He's like, "But I go old time dancing on Wednesdays." She's like, "But I have a meeting with you." And he looks at a calendar. He's like, "You do."
When do I go old time dancing?
He's a very confused man,
know.
but he knows Latin. Well, he knows how to get 2 books off the shelf to learn Latin.
Yeah. He found like the Rosetta for Latin.
It was a blue book.
So he translates this, and I believe what he translates, the English, is what the priests at the beginning of the movie were chanting.
And it was like, we will let in no evil, we will not allow evil in this place, et cetera, et cetera. It was the translation from the very beginning. Remember, goats. We opened up with goats.
Yeah.
Goats.
Love a good goat. So now he has his translation. So he goes to the priest, and he talks to the Monsignor. It's the guy that's been visiting the 5th floor priest, the blind one. And he's asking. He shows up like he's doing lawyerly duties. He's like, a client of mine passed away, and the only living relative is this guy.
Yeah, this is a bold move. Yeah, he's like the blind priest, like Halloran, I think.
Yeah, Halloran. Yeah,
he's like, there's another priest that I represent that left him money, and I need to get it to him. He's like, you're a lawyer? He's like, yeah, so I just need to make sure this is on the up and up. But this is a really good backstory. Like, to get in, why you're there, like, this all totally makes sense. There's nothing like, I've seen this guy, I need to get in the building. He's like, I need to talk to this guy. Because even as the more the Monsignor talks, if that's his designation, he is revealing more and more where Michael does have, if it was true, probably some legal precedence to be like, now I actually need to talk to this guy.
Right.
But this guy is dodging it every which way.
And then he shows him the translation. He's like, hey, does this mean anything to you? I just had it translated from Latin. And he reads it, and the priest is like, no, I do not know what this means. Like, in the worst. This is the worst poker face.
Yeah, this is one step away from Scooby-Doo on this end. It's like, do you know what this means? It's like, curses, I never thought I'd see these words again. What?
No,
you gotta go, bro. Like... But he is like clearly aggravated by this. There is no hiding it.
Right.
And Michael's aware of it. I mean, Michael's like, okay.
Right. And immediately upon leaving, Michael makes the decision to break into this place later.
Yes. Well, this is now bringing some stuff back. So, which will lead to a question that Mike was asking before that hopefully some of my notes could help me even explain it. So Michael goes to this street thug and gives him some money.
Uncle Lewis.
And yes, it's Uncle Lewis from
Christmas Vacation.
Yeah. So So, Lamar, if you're listening to this episode, like, to quote Uncle Lewis, like, you couldn't hear a nitroglycerin truck driving through, like, what was...
It's a TNT factory. I've seen this movie 8,000 times in my life. I don't know how I'm not able to.
Yeah, it's late. It's late at night for Rabbit Troop Sucks. But yes, so Michael approaches this guy, and they very clearly highlight, it's like, good doing business with you again. And he hands him a sack of money.
Yeah.
And he goes through it, and he's like, all right, like, you know, you need my services. You know who to find. And Uncle Lewis is. You couldn't hear a dump truck drive through a nitroglycerin factory.
Right.
Yeah,
so it took me a minute to recognize who it was, but the minute I saw his face, the minute I heard his voice,
oh, absolutely,
all I could think of was him doing the little red rum finger thing and going, "A blessing," and that's when I knew.
Yeah, I always imagine that man with the cigar.
Yeah,
he was in the Tales from the Crypt that I was telling Mike, and I feel he had feel he had a cigar there. But yes, so just note they have done business together, and then a spry man. This is that dude is cat burglaring his way into everything, like pickpocketing or not pickpocketing. Sorry, picking locks.
Yeah,
picking another lock, jumping down some steps, picking some other locks. It's kind of fun to watch. It's like
it is. I mean,
he hired the right guy.
He did, yeah. And I don't know how old the actor is. I mean, in Christmas Vacation,
he looks the same with like brown hair.
It looks like someone photoshopped Uncle Lewis's face onto the body of a slightly younger man.
Like a chimney sweep?
Kind of, yeah. He did look like a chimney sweep. Yeah, so they break into the Monsignor's office or whatever.
Monsignor.
Yeah, and they find, they look through these files. And what they find is a bunch of files about this sequence of people who in their life outside of the church, like before they became, when they were still lay people, who had tried to commit suicide, failed at that, and then ended up joining the clergy afterwards. And that trajectory goes up until...
That is some foreshadowing.
Yeah. This trajectory leads up until we see Father Halloran, the blind one from the building, who is still alive, but who, before he became a priest, tried to kill himself. And then he is still alive, but then the next page in this file is a file on Alison. And it is indicating that, like...
Also note that this is a 5-tier filing cabinet, and just conveniently there's 3 files.
Correct. Yeah. he honed in on the right one right away. But yeah, so now we're starting to see okay, so there's this line of lay people try to kill themselves, doesn't work, and they become clergy on the day that their predecessor dies. And so what he sees is that according to this file, Father Halloran is going to die tomorrow at midnight, and Alison is going to become Sister Catherine or whatever. Teresa, yeah.
That was weird and not fully explained. But
no,
you're just going to become this other person. I don't really know why. But I mean, everything Mike said is correct. Just that one little nuance. I was like, I don't why wouldn't you just be Sister Alison?
I mean, and genuinely, I don't know. Is it commonplace for people when they join to like the Pope is not they don't use their name. They pick a historical Pope name.
Correct.
Same with the monarchy in England. Is that when you become a nun, do you just pick a nun name?
I have, again, you are asking the wrong person on this.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so again, 2 Italian boys. I was never confirmed, so I'm going to hell and I don't know these things.
I was, so it seems worse that I don't know any of this knowledge.
Well, we're going to hell for different reasons. But yeah, so he sees these files and he's like, he's piecing it together. He's like, this is fucking weird. I don't know what to make of this. The next scene, I'm just going to jump to the next scene. We now have Detective Gatz.
Yep.
Gatz and Walken.
And Walken starts talking.
Walken starts talking. Yeah. Oh yeah, I was going to make a bad joke, but I'm not going to. And they've kind of now, because when Alison was talking about all the weird shit that she's seen in this apartment, she was naming the names of the people at that party. And they have now located They looked up these names on, whatever Alta Vista they had back in 1977.
Basically, they have like a Rolodex
Right.
of like files. Like you're like all of these people that she's like, this is the party I went to.
Right. They're all dead murderers.
Yeah, they each have a picture and they each have like a list of crimes, and they
Yeah.
are all people who have murdered other people.
Yeah. And they don't really know what to make of this. So now we have Michael now is convinced he's bought into this fully. He now believes that at midnight she is going to become Sister
Teresa.
And that some weird shit's going down. So he wants to go to the house.
Well, he develops a plan with this
yeah.
woman that we saw very briefly, Jennifer. Because I even wrote like, who is Jennifer?
It was the friend that she was looking at apartments with at the beginning of the movie.
We have no idea the relationship. So Michael's just hanging out with Jennifer, and he's like, "Hey, you're having a party tomorrow.
Look, you need to stay with her. Like, keep her happy."
But it's also like, she's like, well, I can't. Well, he's like, how about you look after her tomorrow? And she's like, well, I'm having that party, the get together. He's like, that's even better. She'll come. We'll both attend. She's going to stay the night with you.
Right.
I was like, wow, that was just imposed that one. But, and Jennifer's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I guess. Like, just stop on by. She could stay with me. And that's the plan. And he's like, I'm going to dip out eventually and go handle some stuff at this weird mansion apartment. Mm-hmm. And that is initially the plan. We are then at the party, and that plan's going according to plan. Plan is going according to plan. Like,
Correct,
yikes.
yes.
But it all is going according to plan. Michael dips out, and soon after, Alison has another fainting spell and just kind of freaks out and falls on a couch conveniently.
Right.
They bring her to another room. All the guests are, aghast. Oh, what's happening? Michael basically gets to the apartment at this time. They put Alison in another room, like the fainting room, and
where they keep the fainting couch, obviously.
yeah. And at one point in time, sorry, going back a moment, when they do enter the party, Jeff Goldblum is there. It's like his third 1 minute
And
point. He's like, "How's Alison? Oh, she's fine. She doesn't look fine. What's going on? What's going on?" And
Jeff Goldblum is also wearing a dress shirt with one button buttoned up.
of course,
Yeah, and like just the most aggressive deep V.
I mean, this is what got him the role in Jurassic Park.
Probably they saw this and like that's the chest we need.
But basically, time jumps, and they go to check on Alison again. They would go get her water or something, but she's gone.
She's gone, yeah.
And she just books it. Like she's on foot. Like they must be super close to her house.
I don't know how far this was because like Michael drives there and she's walking.
Yeah, and she gets there maybe what I would assume is like 10 minutes after Michael.
Yeah, but so he gets there and he goes into the house and he's kind of exploring around, and I don't even remember what he was doing, but he's like kind of crowbarring this like boarded up door or something.
So imagine if you had like a plaque on a wall, but then someone boarded that up.
Yeah,
For some reason.
right. So, but he was like taking these boards off the plaque, and it's the I'd mess up the quote if I tried, but the tag of it is like "Abandon all hope."
It's like the longer version.
Yeah. So, but it's that, but and it starts a paragraph ahead of what I just said, but like basically implying that, or at least what I inferred is that like you are walking into hell. Like this building is hell.
And if you didn't know that, the priest is lurking around, the blind priest, Halloran, I think.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's like, "You're right. The gates to hell."
Right.
Like,
so we have a little bit of exposition by Halloran here, who's basically saying like, yeah, this building is a portal to hell.
as we all thought it would be.
Obviously. And Michael's like, okay, that makes sense, I guess. You need to tell me exactly what's going on, or I'm going to fuck your shit up. And the priest like kind of runs back up to his apartment. He's like, no, I can't. And like Michael starts trying to choke him out.
Yeah, he says repeatedly, like, you're going to tell me or I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And he immediately just starts choking this priest sitting in the chair.
Yeah.
He throws him to the floor and just chokes him to death.
Well,
theory.
But then we see like a hand grab a statue, which we will assume is the Monsignor, and takes out Michael. We assume.
Yes.
So now Alison is back at the house and she runs into Michael, and Michael starts explaining things to her.
In like a really weird, cheery way.
Yeah, no, he's like, hey, you know, so
Like a
here,
real positive attitude.
right. And he's kind of narrating what we as the viewer have already sort of found out, but he's filling in some blanks. He's like, yeah, so like, this house is the gateway to hell. These people tried to kill themselves, but then they don't, and they become a priest, and they have to guard this place. And you're the next in line. So like tonight, Halloran's going to die, and you're going to take his place as, you know, the guy who guards this fucking house. And as this is happening, what's the weird neighbor with the cat?
Like a Chazen.
Chazen shows up, and he's like, "Yeah, that's totally right. Like we're fucking devils." And there's a bunch of like people with, I don't want to say like freaks, but like people with deformities and like just kind of they look sort of dead, but some people don't have arms, some people have like growths on their face. It was kind of a weird assembly of like ghoulish extras, if that makes sense.
Yes, and to answer one of Mike's questions, Michael here starts narrating the situation because you see he seems kind of like Ghostbusters, like I'm feeling positive, yeah,
exactly,
or like Big Trouble in Little China when they drink the juice, like I'm feeling good,
yeah.
And they throw weird martial arts gang signs at one another, which looks like too legit to quit, like hey, too legit to quit,
right?
But they're all feeling good. Michael seems like it's just odd, like he's usually very serious, very determined. And he says, I'm not Michael, and I took over Michael, and Michael killed his wife and tried to choke a priest, and he will be damned to hell for it. And he literally says that, and I took that as truth.
Because, I guess I missed the part where he said that he killed his wife.
They state Michael's crimes.
Because I knew that he was in hell because he killed the priest. I missed the wife part, but that makes total sense. But yeah, so he kind of turns his face, and you can see like the wound from where he was bludgeoned to death. And he kind of continues to explain. There's all these dead goblin ghouls around. He's like, basically like we want you to kill yourself so that you do not take up the mantle of the Sentinel, because as long as there's a Sentinel, we cannot get out of hell through this portal in this house. So you have to kill yourself. And Chazen is like it. I'm inferring from this that he cannot actively kill her, but he's like handing her a knife. He's like, do it, join us. Like you want to be with Michael, don't you?
Yeah. So as I said before, the theme of suicide was full throughout this film. And Mike is totally correct that the evil ghosts are like, we could only kill you and you could never become the Sentinel, the Watcher, the soldier over these things if you kill yourself, which you've tried before. But if you don't do this, you'll be like on God's team, and you'll just like kind of take over.
Right.
So I actually really like this because you rarely see this with like kind of a lot of like, I don't know, like fantasy stuff or maybe like even like exorcism stuff. So the priest who's blind, Halloran, he makes his way through the ghosts. And I really do like the scene. He's holding the cross and they can't touch him.
Yeah.
Which I'm just inferring is just his faith and that religious symbol, and because he can't see them, they are being basically blasted back.
Right. He's kind of leading the Monsignor through this pool of like these demons.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's a very cool scene. All the while Chazen's like, just do it, kill yourself.
Yeah, he's standing like a distance away, like you guys go get him. Like, yes,
right.
You. Ghost number 5.
You, nameless ghost. But then he does eventually make it to Alison, and it's kind of blurred out here. But then we assume that she does take up the mantle.
She does. She grabs the cross, and then like everyone like kind of like goes back into the shadows, like cockroaches.
Yeah, like they just kind of like, it's like Homer going back through the bush. I'm glad that landed. And they all kind of disappear, and then it's just her in the room by herself.
Yeah, and then we're basically just like flash forward. We basically, I'm trying to think if there's anything before this. I don't really remember.
I don't think there was. They show the wrecking ball going into the building.
So they remodel the entire building. Yeah. That's it. I was like, I knew there was one other thing. So you think they're remodeling all of it. It's kind of half the building.
Yeah, it's like the building looks newer, and like we see the same Ava Gardner, giving a tour of an apartment to a young couple, and it's like everything is, 'cause the previous house. So what I took this as is like the house gets kind of remodeled every time there's a new Sentinel.
Yes, that's what I was thinking as well.
So like the previous house was as old as Father Houlihan.
Christmas.
Yeah. Yes.
Hula Christmas.
Hula Christmas. However old he was, like that was kind of the era of the house.
I took that as well.
Yeah, and so now it's like it's of her era, so it's like very 70s.
And so this like new hip couple is like, oh, like what about the neighbors? They're like, well, the guy next door is like he plays cello or some orchestral instrument like in the symphony, and that's also like there's only one other person. Like, well, who's that? She won't bother you. She's just some nun.
Yeah.
And then they pan to her, and it's blind Alison, who I take it now is Sister Teresa.
Yeah.
And she is now just, and I'm putting this in quotes, overseen, I was going to say look, but overseen like Central Park or New York City, just like the other priest would just like look, put that in quotes, out the window and credits roll.
Yeah.
Huge bummer for Alison. I don't think she signed up for that.
No.
I wouldn't have.
No.
That's not for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there was a good outcome for her. I mean, it's either kill yourself and become a demon and hang out with your weird murderer boyfriend, or become a blind nun and guard a portal to hell. I don't know which one you choose there, but yeah. So again, like I mentioned at the beginning, I hope that many of you paused this and went and actually saw this movie before you listened to this. This is one of my. I will say, out of all the movies that we've done on this podcast, of the ones that I had not seen previously, this is definitely my favorite movie that we've watched.
This movie's great.
So like Andy, huge thanks for recommending this. This was a lot of fun to watch. Like
Totally.
This is a movie I can't believe I didn't know this existed. When I first started watching it, just like based on like the filming and kind of the quality of the film, I was like, this movie's gonna be fucking shitty and unwatchable. But I mean, within moments, I was proven wrong. I really enjoyed this.
I also really enjoyed this film. I mean, this leads us again to, I mean, yes, Andy, thank you so much for recommending this. I had a ton of fun. I've never heard of this movie. And yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, but like Christopher Walken's in it, but he only is really a minute. But like, that's cool. Like this is the origins of Christopher Walken and a lot of actors. I mean, Jerry Orbach has like 45 seconds to maybe 75 seconds in this movie. That's crazy. Jeff Goldblum has more, but says nothing. Like there's a lot of fun cameos. Don't go on that any of those are leads, but Mike said, the lead, I tried to look her up. Yeah, she's super cute. She reminded me of Felicity Jones a little bit, like a little mousy, but really strong, like that Rogue One character. I didn't notice much that I've seen her in before, but I mean, so this is fun for me that like I don't know a lot of these people. We've seen them a lot of other places, but yeah, I had a lot of fun. This brings me back that if any of you have film recommendations, not just for Halloween or anything seasonal, if there's a movie that you would like us to recommend or watch based on your recommendation, let us know. I mean, this is a home run for me.
Yeah, definitely a home run. And yeah, Paul's right. And we're always welcome to recommendations. We love seasonal films here. We kind of have a little bit of a plan for November. I don't think we're going to do much with Christmas movies just because we both like Christmas movies a lot. And
yeah, we talked about like there'll be something in December.
We have one that I think we're definitely going to do.
Totally. But yeah, we just can't do like a full month because I mean, you would burn out quickly. I mean, that's an unrealistic expectation that just every year we're going to do 4 or 5 holiday films.
And I just don't want to spend the month of December like gushing on movies that I love.
Totally, and Halloween's easy because you can just like pull anything.
Yeah, there's a whole genre around that. It doesn't have to be Halloween themed. But that being said, with Christmas, if there's like a movie that's Christmas oriented that we've kind of missed, or that you think is just kind of flown under the radar, definitely recommend it. And no like Remy Harlan movies, like nothing, not a movie that just takes place during the holidays but isn't about Christmas. So this is kind of a side tangent, but like I got into a conversation with a coworker the other day about like what makes a movie a Christmas movie, kind of originating from, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And of course we know here at Rabbit Troop Sucks, Die Hard is a Christmas movie. We can agree on that.
Yes. Oh yes.
So Paul, I'll ask you this question. What makes a movie a Christmas movie?
I would say that someone recognizes some kind of transformation and some Christmas cheer.
I'll agree with that. Transformation is definitely, I think, necessary. So after arguing with this person for a long time, also the previous argument that I had with this person was whether or not cereal is soup. So that's kind of what we're basing this off of. But the argument that I used that landed with this person, because he did not think that Die Hard was a Christmas movie. I think for it to be a Christmas movie, the fact that it is Christmas has to affect the plot.
Sure. Lamar and I watched a movie recently called Soul Survivor, and it happens in Christmas. And it's so background. I only remembered it right now. Like, what's a movie that doesn't really, that's going on your philosophy? Yeah. It was just like Christmas is a thing, but it's just like,
right. Well, like the Firth, Jesus.
Colin Firth.
Yeah, Colin Firth. That man can wear a sweater, I'll tell you. The first Lethal Weapon happened at Christmas, and that's kind of a hallmark of that director. But it's not a Christmas movie because like Christmas isn't an important part of the plot. Same thing. This is a movie that everyone thinks sucks, but I like a lot. A Long Kiss Goodnight with Sammy Jackson and
I watched that not too long ago.
I love that movie. It happens around Christmas, not a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Die Hard, like that plot couldn't have happened if it wasn't Christmas because they're having a Christmas party, no one's there, blah blah blah. That's what makes it a Christmas movie. So if there's a movie, I know that was a long way around to get to what I'm trying to say. If there's a movie that kind of falls into that category that could qualify as a Christmas movie that you think is underappreciated or kind of no one knows about, that's what we want you to recommend to us.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Any of your recommendations, remember, you could email us at rabbittroopsuckspodcast@gmail.com. You can visit us on Instagram or Facebook. You could go directly to rabbittroopsucks.com.
Yeah.
Breaking news, I have some whispers that Rico may be rejoining us sometime in December.
Really?
Yeah, so we might have another Rico appearance.
I'm looking forward to Rico Part 2.
And we have an idea of what we're going to, as Mike noted, what we're going to focus on in November. I hope Chris Brewer joins us back for that. Anything else you want to add? Oh, I do want to say that, so we always record a little ahead of time, but after this podcast, we look forward to joining you with a Halloween spooktacular with multiple guests.
Yeah.
And you'll learn the fate of our friend Mike next to me right now.
Yeah, that was, you're in for a doozy.
Doozy does.
Yeah.
Houdini. Going back to Houdini. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Michael had like 3 Houdini posters in his apartment.
I did note that. Yeah. So the character Michael of the movie we just watched had all of these really cool magician posters, and there was like a cool Houdini one. And like I wrote to the side, like I would assume based on his overlooking apartment of Central Park, etc., that these were real, like flyers.
Oh yeah, he's not getting repros. That's OG shit right there.
That looks super cool. But yeah, Mike, is there anything else you want to add before we jump into the Halloween episode to come?
I don't think there is. But yeah, I mean, as always, like thanks for listening. I mean, this podcast has gone. It's gained popularity, I think, faster than either of us thought.
Yeah, true.
Which is great. I mean, so thank you for listening. We love all of you. I mean, you listening is what makes this fun for us to do. So thanks for that. Thanks for the comments. And yeah, we'll see you next week on Halloween. It'll be a bonus episode. It'll release on Halloween day. Halloween's a Monday, which should be illegal, but
yeah, totally. And
here we are.
And for everyone in Denver who knows the Halloween trick, it could snow. It could be 70 degrees. Who knows what we're gonna get?
Yeah.
But as always, coming from Denver, Colorado, Rabbit Troop sucks.
That's true.
Ugh, Rabbit Troop. What have you done?
They don't know.